Today, CBN News takes us inside terror tunnels beneath Gaza. You'll see where Hamas stored weapons, hid leaders, and held hostages in cages.
A web of these tunnels extends hundreds of miles underground and was 18 years in the making. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us this firsthand report.
What you can see in front of you over here is one of many tunnels that are underground in each and every one of these neighborhoods.
Deep in Khan Yunis, currently ground zero of the fight in Gaza, IDF Brigadier General Dan Goldfuss talked about the extent of the tunnel system and how the IDF found tunnel shafts everywhere.
There's a shaft in every place you can find. There's a shaft in the kindergarten, there's a shaft in the school, there's a shaft in the mosques, there's a shaft in the supermarket. Wherever you go, there's a shaft going down into the underground tunnels and underground world of this unhumane entity of Hamas.
Goldfuss also pointed out how this underground network played into the October 7th strategy and aftermath.
They entered Israel, attacked the villages, raped, burned, murdered, slaughtered civilians. Some of them were taken in as trophies, just as trophies, taken into these tunnels, into this tunnel, and such as. They took time, money, and effort building the underground terror tunnels. Let's go in.
So we're headed right now into one of the tunnel shafts here in Khan Yunis. And as you'll see in just a second, something when you see it on film, but when you see it for yourself and be in it, it's a whole new world. You can see for yourself, this is what Hamas has been doing for 18 years, building these tunnels, hundreds of miles of tunnels.
We stopped at a section used by Hamas guards, and Goldfuss explains how this unique battleground creates an historic challenge for IDF soldiers.
So what we're doing here in Khan Yunis is, for the first time in world military history, is actually maneuvering over and underground simultaneously. So it took us time to evolve, to learn, to understand how to do that, but that's what we're doing today.
As we moved deeper, the heat and humidity became much more intense. Then came a surprise at the next section.
I have a small request, and that is switch off all your lights. What I'm trying to give you is the feeling of a one-year-old baby in this tunnel. The feeling of the kidnapped people brought in here and taken in these tunnels. No electronics, no connection to the outside world. Just darkness and darkness and darkness from all points of view.
With lights back on, Goldfuss showed us the room.
Look at the tiles, electricity, time, effort, money that was put in to build this. We're now at the moment approximately 15 meters underground. We're going deeper and deeper.
We're in what the general calls a strategic tunnel, not a tactical tunnel where fighters can go from place to place, but a tunnel used by Hamas leaders, and also a place where they know that at least 3 of the hostages were kept.
Our next stop revealed a much different room, furnished and equipped for both guards and Hamas leaders.
This is years of planning. So if anybody has a question, how long do I think the 7th of October was planned? For many years. They planned how to attack women and children in the villages.
This area was likely the compound for many of the Hamas senior leaders, but after the war began, they built this cage, and they believe that at least 12 hostages were held here, 3 of whom who have been released.
If anybody in the world needs evidence for the horrific actions that the terror entity Hamas has done, you're in it. You're in this evidence. From this place over here, at least 3 hostages were released.
They included Sapir Cohen, Saha Calderon, and Or Yaakov. The tunnel holding these hostages goes on for more than half a mile.
As you can see in this tunnel, so many places it goes off to another direction. So you can see that this would be like a spider's web all the way through Khan Yunis and many other places of the Gaza Strip.
Given the size and setup, General Goldfuss believes Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar stayed in this tunnel and vows to track him down.
He doesn't care about his people.
He's putting his people between him and us. He's putting the civilians, the population, between him and us. He's running. He's on the go. He's on the run. We'll reach him.
Above ground, millions worldwide accuse Israel's military offensive of genocide.
When I have to go into a neighborhood, I pull the civilians out of the neighborhood, prevent from myself to either injuring or hurting anybody who's not involved. I take utmost time and effort to do so. In the endless maze of the underground in Khan Yunis, you can see the different munition that being counted in these underground tunnels. You can see grenades.
After displaying certain munitions found in the tunnel, Goldfuss expressed his amazement at the overall amount.
The amount of weapons which you find in every house, every building you move into, and you find amounts of weapons. You expect that you wouldn't find in a kindergarten, you wouldn't find weapons. So you go in a kindergarten, you find dozens of RPG. And then you go into a school, you go into a UN school, and you find dozens of mortars and IEDs. And it's just everywhere. You want to go into a mosque, and you want to say, hey, the mosque is out of the game. But it's not. There's shafts from the mosque down underground, and in the mosque, you find mortars, RPGs, IEDs. And you say, it's just in every corner.
It's really been an extraordinary experience to see firsthand, to witness the heat, the humidity, the extent of these tunnels that run for miles under Khan Yunis and hundreds of miles through all of the Gaza Strip.
After nearly 2 hours, we returned toward the light, struck by the realization that many hostages held for more than 100 days likely remain in tunnels like this one. Goldfuss ended his briefing with a message to the world.
We are fighting a just war. On the 7th of October, we were attacked in a savage attack. This is a just war, and we will win this war with patience and with stubbornness from every meter overground and underground. And my message to the world is patience. But the fighting here is not only between Israel and Gaza. This is a fight between the free world, a world that believes in freedom, in human rights, in humanity, in life, to terrorists who believe in death.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Khan Yunis, Gaza.
My mind goes back to the start of this, to October 7th, and then in the aftermath, a leader of Hamas on television in Lebanon said that there was a key difference between Hamas and Israel, that Hamas didn't value life, that Israelis want l'chaim, to life. They want to live. They want to have families. They want to raise their children and their grandchildren. And the difference was, well, Hamas was dedicated to death, that they didn't love their lives. They wanted to die in jihad, and because of that, they were going to win. Well, I would submit because of that, they are losing, and they will always lose, because cultures of death never survive. It never makes it forward. What you just saw is evidence of what Gaza has done with the international aid that has poured into that region for years. You go back to when Israel had security control. Jews were living in Gaza. This was 2004. By 2005, all the Jews were forcibly removed by the Israeli government. And in the aftermath of that, Gaza was turned over, and they had free elections. It was under the Bush administration. Our State Department thought, this is wonderful. We'll have an Arab Spring. They want to embrace democracy. They want to live free. We're on our way to peace. In those elections, what did the people of Gaza do? They elected Hamas to lead them. And Hamas then proceeded to take all the international aid, and instead of building power plants, instead of building water facilities to help people, instead of trying to grow a country and grow an economy, what did they do? They built terror tunnels. You look at the detail here, and it's mile after mile after mile. These tunnels, it's bigger than the London subway. It's bigger than the New York subway. And it's very deep, going down 150 feet. The reason it's so deep is they want to protect it from bombs. It's all a plan to wipe Israel off the map. I submit we should stop funding it. We should stop supporting it. We should call it for what it is. It's an organized terrorist state, and it needs to stop, and it shouldn't exist anymore, and it certainly shouldn't get our tax dollars.